The penthouse door slammed shut, the sound echoing like a gunshot in my heart. I stood frozen on the marble floor, my suitcase at my feet, as Cassandra's voice, once so warm so mine, cut through the air. "You need to leave, Elena. She's back." 5 words. 5 years ago. They shattered everything. I was 23, a wide-eyed graphic designer who'd stumbled into the orbit of Cassandra Vega, the 30-year-old CEO of Vega Enterprises, a tech empire that dominated New York's skyline as much as her presence commanded a room. We met at a charity gala, where I spilled champagne on her dress and she laughed a sound so rare it felt like a gift. That night sparked a whirlwind. Late-night talks in her penthouse, her hand brushing mine as we pored over design mock-ups, stolen kisses in the elevator when the world wasn't watching. For 6 months I believed in us, in her promises whispered against my skin under the city lights. I believed I was enough. Until Sophia returned. Sophia, her ex, the glamorous venture capitalist who'd left Cass for a better opportunity in London. One phone call, one tearful reunion, and I was out. No explanation, no goodbye. Just my belongings in a suitcase and the cold reality that I'd been a placeholder. I left New York that night, vowing never to let anyone, especially Cass, break me again. 5 years later, I'm not that naive girl anymore. I'm Elena Harper, 28, founder of Harper Creative, a design agency that's taken the West Coast by storm. San Francisco's tech scene bows to me now, my name splashed across industry magazines, my work shaping brands for billion-dollar startups. I built this life from the ashes of that betrayal, brick by brick, client by client. But the past has a way of creeping back, doesn't it? It started with an email. My assistant, Priya, flagged it. Urgent Vega Enterprises acquisition proposal. I froze at my desk, the glass walls of my office suddenly feeling too exposed. Cass's company, once untouchable, was bleeding money. A string of bad investments, a PR scandal involving Sophia's shady dealings. Vega Enterprises was on its knees, and my firm was their last hope. They wanted a rebrand, a lifeline. And they wanted me. I could have said no. Should have. But something, pride, curiosity, or maybe the ghost of those nights in her penthouse, made me agree to the meeting. When I walked into the conference room in Manhattan, I wasn't prepared for her. Cass, still devastating in a tailored suit, her dark hair shorter now, her eyes carrying a weight I didn't recognize. She stood to greet me, her voice steady but her hands betraying a slight tremble. "Elena," she said, like my name was a prayer she hadn't spoken in years. I kept it professional. "Cold. MS. Vega, let's discuss your needs." Her team presented their case. A failing brand, plummeting stocks, a company on the brink. My team could save them, but it would cost her control, creative direction, everything. And I'd make sure she knew who held the power now. The meeting ended with a handshake, her touch lingering a fraction too long. I pulled away, but not before I caught the flicker of something in her eyes. Regret, maybe? I didn't care. I was here to win, not to feel. That night, alone in my hotel room, I couldn't sleep. Memories flooded back. Cass teaching me to dance in her living room, her laughter when I stepped on her toes, the way she traced my jawline with her fingertips, promising forever. I hated how those moments still felt alive, how they clawed at the walls I'd built. The next day we began the rebrand. My team set up in Vega Enterprises' sleek offices, and I found myself working side by side with Cass. She was different now, less the untouchable CEO, more a woman fighting to save her legacy. She'd ask my opinion on designs, her voice softer than I remembered, and I'd catch her watching me when she thought I wasn't looking. One evening, as the team left and the office grew quiet, she cornered me by the coffee machine. "Elena, can we talk?" "There's nothing to say," I replied, my tone sharp enough to cut glass. "There's everything to say." Her voice cracked, and for the first time I saw her vulnerability laid bare. I was wrong. I was a coward. I wanted to scream, to tell her how she'd shattered me, how I'd spent years rebuilding myself. But I didn't. I walked away, leaving her standing there, because I wasn't ready to let her in again. Not yet. The weeks that followed were a dance of tension. We worked late, our conversations a mix of professional precision and unspoken history. She'd bring me coffee, remembering I liked it black with a hint of cinnamon. I'd catch myself smiling at her dry humor, then hate myself for it. The rebrand was taking shape, bold, innovative, a reflection of the empire Cass had built and the one I was saving. But every step forward felt like a step closer to her, and I wasn't sure if I was strong enough to resist. One night, as rain pounded the office windows, she found me sketching in the boardroom. "You're still brilliant," she said, leaning against the door frame. "You always were." "Don't," I warned, my pencil pausing mid-stroke. "Don't act like you know me anymore." "I never stopped knowing you," she said, stepping closer. "I never stopped." "Stop." I stood, my heart racing. "You don't get to do this. You don't get to waltz back into my life and pretend nothing happened." She flinched but didn't back down. "I'm not pretending. I'm trying to make it right." I laughed, bitter and sharp. "Make it right? You kicked me out, Cass. You chose her." "I was wrong," she shouted, her voice echoing in the empty room. "Sophia was a mistake. You were." She stopped, her breath shaky. "You were everything." The air between us crackled, heavy with 5 years of pain and unspoken love. I wanted to hate her, to walk away and never look back. But her eyes held Metho's same eyes that once promised me the world. "I can't do this," I whispered, grabbing my coat and fleeing into the rain. As I stood on the wet Manhattan streets, my heart pounded with a truth I wasn't ready to face. I still loved her. And that terrified me more than anything. The rain soaked through my coat, but I didn't care. I walked aimlessly through Manhattan's glowing streets, the city's pulse drowning out the chaos in my chest. Cassandra's words, "You were everything," clung to me like the damp air, refusing to let go. I ended up at a small diner, the kind with flickering neon signs and coffee that tasted like regret. Sitting in a booth, I stared at my reflection in the window, wondering how I'd let her unravel me again. 5 years of building walls, of proving I didn't need her, and one conversation had me questioning everything. My phone buzzed. A text from Cass. "Please, Elena. Let me explain. Meet me tomorrow?" I deleted it, but the words burned into my mind. I didn't owe her anything. Yet, the thought of her standing alone in that boardroom, her voice breaking, gnawed at me. The next morning, I returned to Vega Enterprises, my resolve hardened. Focus on the job, I told myself. Save her company, take the win, and leave. But Cass had other plans. She was waiting in my temporary office, a tray of cinnamon-dusted coffee in her hands like a peace offering. "I don't want your coffee," I said, brushing past her to my desk. "It's not about the coffee," she replied, setting it down anyway. "It's about us." "There is no us," I snapped, but my voice wavered. She stepped closer, her presence filling the room. "There's always been an us, Elena. Even when I was too stupid to see it." I turned away, pretending to organize files, but my hands shook. "You made your choice 5 years ago. Live with it." "I've been living with it," she said, her voice low. "And it's been hell." I wanted to ignore her, to keep my armor intact, but curiosity or something deeper made me pause. "What do you want, Cass? Absolution? Forgiveness?" "I don't have either. I want a chance," she said, "to show you I'm not that person anymore." I laughed, sharp and humorless. "You're still the CEO who puts her empire above everything else. Don't pretend you've changed." She flinched, but her eyes didn't waver. "I've lost more than you know. Let me prove I'm different." I didn't respond. I couldn't. But when she left, the coffee stayed, its scent tugging at memories I'd buried deep. The rebrand project intensified, and with it our time together. Meetings stretched into late nights, and Cass was always there reviewing mock-ups, offering insights, her presence a constant pull. I hated how easily we fell into rhythm, like no time had passed. She'd make a dry comment about a client's bad taste, and I'd catch myself laughing before I could stop. One evening, as we finalized a logo presentation, she leaned over my shoulder, her breath warm against my neck. "This is incredible, Elena," she said, her voice soft. "You're incredible." I pulled away, my heart racing. "Don't do that." "Do what?" she asked, all innocence, but her eyes betrayed her. "Act like we're something we're not." I stood, gathering my things. "We're business partners. That's it." She caught my wrist, gentle but firm. "Elena, please. Just hear me out." I yanked my hand free, my voice rising. "Hear you out? You threw me out of your life like I was nothing. You don't get to rewrite that story now." "I didn't think I had a choice," she said, her voice raw. "Sophia came back and too panicked. I thought she was my past, my future, everything I was supposed to want. But I was wrong. I knew it the moment you walked out that door. Her words hit like a punch, stealing my breath. I wanted to believe her, but trust was a luxury I couldn't afford. It's too late, Cass, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. You broke me. She stepped closer, her eyes searching mine. I know. And I'll spend the rest of my life making it right if you'll let me. The air between us was electric, the space shrinking until I could feel her warmth. For a moment I wanted to lean in, to let her close the distance. But fear of being hurt again won. I turned and left, the sound of her sigh haunting me all the way to the elevator. The next day, Priya pulled me aside. Elena, there's something you need to see. She handed me a tablet with an article. Vega Enterprises CEO steps down amid scandal. My heart stopped. The piece detailed Sophia's return last year, her role in the company's financial missteps, and Cass's decision to take the fall to protect her team. She'd resigned as CEO weeks before reaching out to me. I looked across the office at Cass, now just a consultant on her own project, her power stripped away. She'd lost everything, her company, her reputation, maybe even herself. And yet she was still fighting, still showing up. For me? That night I found her at her desk, staring at old photos on her computer. One caught my eye. Us laughing on her penthouse balcony, my head on her shoulder. You kept that? I asked, my voice softer than I intended. Couldn't let it go, she said, not looking up. It's all I had left of you. My chest tightened. Why didn't you tell me you stepped down? She met my eyes, her gaze steady. Because I didn't want your pity. I wanted your respect. For the first time, I saw her not as the untouchable CEO, but as a woman who'd lost as much as I had. And maybe, just maybe, I wasn't the only one who'd been broken. The photo lingered in my mind, a snapshot of a time when love felt invincible. I couldn't shake the image of Cass staring at it, her eyes heavy with regret. But regret wasn't enough, not yet. I threw myself into the rebrand, channeling my confusion into work. The campaign was coming together. A sleek new logo, a bold tagline, "Rise Again," and a website that screamed innovation. My team was on fire, and even Cass's colleagues noticed the shift. You're saving us, one of them whispered to me during a break. I smiled, but my eyes drifted to Cass, who was quietly reviewing notes in the corner. She wasn't the star anymore. I was. Yet every time I saw her, my resolve wavered. She'd bring me coffee, offer a small smile, or linger after meetings, as if waiting for me to crack. I didn't. But the effort it took to stay distant was exhausting, like fighting a current pulling me back to her. One afternoon, we presented the rebrand to Vega Enterprises board. I stood at the head of the table, my slides commanding attention. Cass sat in the back, her role reduced to observer. The board loved it, applause, handshakes, promises of contracts. As they filed out, Cass approached me, her expression unreadable. You were phenomenal, she said. This is your victory. It's just business, I replied, but my voice lacked conviction. She tilted her head, studying me. Is it? I didn't answer. I couldn't. Instead, I busied myself with packing my laptop, avoiding her gaze. But she didn't leave. Elena, I'm hosting a small dinner tonight. To celebrate. I'd like you to come. I hesitated. I have plans. A lie. Cancel them, she said, a spark of her old confidence returning. Please. Against my better judgment, I agreed. That evening, I arrived at her new apartment, not the penthouse, but a modest loft in Brooklyn. It was warm, cluttered with books and art, a far cry from the sterile luxury of her old life. A few colleagues were there, laughing over wine, but the moment I walked in, Cass's eyes found mine. She wore a simple black sweater, her hair loose, and for a second she looked like the woman I'd fallen for, not the CEO who'd broken me. Dinner was intimate, the conversation light, but the air between us was heavy. After the others left, I lingered, helping her clear plates. We worked in silence, the clink of dishes the only sound. Then as I handed her a glass, our fingers brushed and I froze. Elena, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I need to tell you something. I stepped back, crossing my arms. Don't. I have to, she insisted, setting the glass down. When Sophia came back, I thought I was fixing my past. I thought I owed her, that she was my future. But every day without you was a reminder of what I'd lost. I didn't just lose you, I lost myself. Her words hit hard, cracking the walls I'd built. Then why didn't you fight for me? I asked, my voice trembling. Why didn't you call or write or do something? I was ashamed, she admitted, her eyes glistening. I didn't think I deserved you after what I did. I wanted to scream, to tell her she was right, she didn't deserve me. But the pain in her voice, the way her shoulders slumped, told a different story. She wasn't the untouchable CEO anymore. She was just Cass, a woman carrying the weight of her mistakes. I can't trust you, I said finally. Not again. I know, she replied. But I'm not asking for your trust. I'm asking for a chance to earn it. I left her apartment without another word, my heart a battlefield of anger and longing. The next week was a blur of final tweaks to the rebrand. The launch was set and the pressure was on. Cass was professional, but her glances lingered, her touches accidental but deliberate. I hated how my body responded, how my pulse quickened when she was near. One night, as we finalized the launch event, she pulled me aside. I found something, she said, handing me a small box. Inside was a sketchbook from 5 years ago, filled with designs I'd drawn for her company, doodles of us in the margins. You kept this? I asked, my voice catching. It was all I had of you, she said, echoing her words from before. I never stopped loving you, Elena. Not for a day. I clutched the sketchbook, tears stinging my eyes. You don't get to say that now. I know, she said, stepping closer. But I'm saying it anyway. Because it's true. The room felt too small, her presence too much. I wanted to run, to hold her, to scream, to kiss her. Instead, I turned and left, the sketchbook pressed against my chest like a lifeline. As I walked through the city, the weight of her words settled in. She'd kept a piece of me all these years, just as I'd carried her in my heart. But could I let her back in? Could I risk it all again? The sketchbook sat on my hotel nightstand, a silent accusation. I hadn't opened it since Cass gave it back, but its presence was enough to keep me awake, memories bleeding into the present. I was losing my grip on the anger that had kept me safe for so long. The rebrand launch was days away, and the office buzzed with anticipation. My team was ready, the campaign flawless, but I was unraveling. Every interaction with Cass chipped away at my resolve, her quiet apologies, her unguarded smiles, the way she remembered the smallest details about me. I wanted to hate her, but love was a stubborn thing, clawing its way back to the surface. The morning of the launch, I found Cass in the event hall, adjusting a banner. She looked exhausted, her usual polish replaced by a raw, human vulnerability. Nervous? I asked, surprising myself with the softness in my voice. Terrified, she admitted, turning to me. Not about the launch. About you. My breath caught. Cass, don't. I can't help it, she said, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. I see you, Elena, and I see everything I threw away. I need you to know I'm sorry. Even if you never forgive me. I looked away, focusing on the stage lights, the crowd gathering outside. Let's just get through today, I said, my voice tight. The launch was a triumph. The new logo lit up the screens, the tagline "Rise Again" earning cheers. I spoke to the crowd, my confidence masking the storm inside. Cass stood in the wings, clapping with the rest, but her eyes never left me. When it was over, the room emptied, leaving just the two of us. You did it, she said, her voice thick with pride. You saved us. We did it, I corrected, surprising myself again. She smiled, a real one, and for a moment we were just Elena and Cass, not the CEO and the ex. Can I buy you a drink? She asked. To celebrate? I should have said no. But I didn't. We ended up at a quiet bar, the kind with dim lights and jazz in the background. Over whiskey, she talked not about the past but about now. How she'd started volunteering at a community center, teaching kids to code. How she'd sold the Penthouse, let go of the life she thought defined her. I'm trying to be someone you could be proud of, she said, her voice barely audible. I sipped my drink, my heart aching. Why does it matter what I think? Because you're the only one who ever saw me, she said, her eyes locking onto mine. Not the CEO, not the empire. Just me. I wanted to argue, to tell her she was wrong, but I couldn't. She was right. I'd seen her, loved her for who she was. And maybe I still did. The conversation shifted to lighter things, memories of our old late-night talks, The way we dream up impossible projects. We laughed, and for the first time in years it felt real. As we left the bar, she offered to walk me to my hotel. The city was alive around us, but all I felt was her presence, steady and warm. At my door she hesitated. "Elena, I don't," I said, but my voice was soft, pleading. She stepped closer, her hand brushing mine. "I love you," she whispered. "I always will." My heart stopped. I wanted to kiss her, to let the past dissolve in that moment. But fear held me back. "Good night, Cass," I said, stepping inside and closing the door. The next day, I flew back to San Francisco, the distance a relief and a torment. The rebrand was a success, Vega Enterprises was back on its feet, and my job was done. But Cass's words followed me, echoing in every quiet moment. I threw myself into work, hoping to drown them out, but they were relentless. A week later, Priya handed me a letter. No return address, just my name in Cass's precise handwriting. Inside was a single page. "Elena, I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I need you to know that you changed me. Loving you showed me what matters, and losing you taught me who I want to be. I'm not asking for a second chance, just for you to know that you were never a placeholder. You were my home. Always." Cass. I read it again and again, tears blurring the words. I wanted to call her, to tell her I still loved her, but the weight of 5 years held me back. Instead, I tucked the letter into my sketchbook, next to the drawings of us, and tried to move on. But moving on felt like betraying the part of me that still believed in her. Months passed, but Cass's letter stayed with me, a quiet presence in my desk drawer. San Francisco moved on, new clients, new projects, but I was stuck, caught between the life I'd built and the one I'd left behind. Every time I opened that sketchbook, I saw her face, heard her voice. You were my home. I tried to date, to fill the void, but no one compared. Not to her laughter, her intensity, the way she made me feel seen. I hated her for that, for still having a hold on me. But I hated myself more for not letting go. One day, Priya burst into my office, her eyes wide. "Elena, you need to see this." She handed me her phone, open to a news article. Vega Enterprises sold to tech giant, former CEO Cassandra Vega to lead nonprofit. Cass had walked away from her empire entirely, channeling her energy into a foundation for underserved youth. The article included a photo of her, smiling with a group of kids, her eyes brighter than I'd seen in years. Something in me shifted. She wasn't just trying to make things right with Mesh, was rebuilding herself. For the first time, I believed she meant it. I booked a flight to New York that night. I found her at the community center mentioned in the article, a modest building in the Bronx. She was in the middle of a coding class, her sleeves rolled up, laughing as a kid debugged a program. She looked lighter, freer, like the Cass I'd fallen in love with. When she saw me, her face froze, then softened. "Elena." "Hi," I said, suddenly shy. "Can we talk?" She led me to a quiet corner, her students' chatter fading behind us. "What are you doing here?" she asked, hope and fear mixing in her voice. "I read your letter," I said, my hands twisting together. "And I saw the article. You're different." "I'm trying to be," she said, her eyes searching mine. "I meant what I wrote. You changed me." I took a deep breath, the words I'd held back for months spilling out. "I was so angry, Cass. You broke my heart. But I never stopped loving you. And that scares me because I don't know if I can trust you again." She stepped closer, her voice steady. "I don't expect you to trust me yet. But I'll spend every day proving you can. If you'll let me." I looked at her, really looked, and saw the woman I'd loved, not the CEO, not the empire, just Cass. Flawed human trying. And in that moment I made a choice. "Start slow," I said, my voice trembling. "Coffee. Tomorrow." Her smile was like the sunrise, warm and full of promise. "Coffee," she agreed. We started there. Coffee turned into walks, walks into dinners, dinners into late-night talks that felt like coming home. It wasn't easy, trust was a slow build, each step a risk. But Cass showed up every day with small gestures and big ones. A playlist of songs we used to love, a quiet apology when old wounds surfaced, a promise to never run again. One night, as we sat on her couch, her hand in mine, I realized something. Love wasn't about perfection. It was about showing up, even when it hurt, even when it scared you. Cass had hurt me, but she was also the one who'd taught me how to love, how to fight for it. "I forgive you," I whispered, my head resting against her shoulder. She pulled me closer, her voice thick with emotion. I'll never stop earning that. 5 years ago, she kicked me out of her penthouse, out of her life. Now she works for Menet as an employee, but as a partner in love and in life. Together we're building something new. A foundation, a future, a home. Not in a penthouse, but in the quiet moments, the shared laughter, the trust we're rebuilding one day at a time. The world doesn't always make room for love like ours, but we've carved out our own space, our own story. And this time, no one, not an ex, not an empire, will take it away. Thank you for listening. Like and subscribe to get notifications about next videos.